A very warm greetings everyone. Welcome to the series of Introduction to Environmental Economics. Under this, we have been looking at environmental regulation as the topic. Today's lecture will revolve around Coase Theorem. Now, Coase Theorem is a remarkable theorem in environmental economics. It has been adopted at various levels. Now, the objective of this lecture would be to comprehend the need and relevance of property rights as a market instrument to address problem of externality such as pollution. Property rights are supposed to be an instrument that will clear the problem of externality where the market gets disactivated. To understand Coase theorem is a second objective. To comprehend the underlying assumptions of the Coase theorem, to discuss various scenarios of property rights assigned and its impact on efficient levels of outcome, to visualize various possibilities of outcomes under each case of property right, to demonstrate Coase theorem by deploying the simple example of a refinery which is considered as a polluter and a car factory which is considered as a victim. Now let us understand what is the assignment of property right, what do you mean by property right, and why is it significant in removing externality issues. In case of externalities, simple enforcement of rights or institutional change makes a good excludable. The problem of externality is that the goods are non-excludable, and that is how the attempt is to make them excludable. This can be done in various ways by simple enforcement of rights and institutional changes. This allows the market to operate, and once those hurdles and limitations of externalities are broken, then the market can operate and bring the system into efficiency. In case of a garbage system, if there are no laws that are prevailing or existing, then the garbage is considered as non-excludable. However, with simple enforcement and prohibitions on littering, garbage can become excludable, and therefore the price system can operate and ensure proper disposal of trash, and therefore once we can see that efficiency gets into it. For the market to become competitive, there should be a complete assignment of property right. In other words, property rights must be well defined, transferable, secure and complete. So, a property right which is in this form, which is well defined, transferable, secure and complete, would bring in competitive scenario, competitive system, and ensure efficiency therefore. So, properly defined property right governs whether a market will allocate the good efficiently or it could allocate a bad means pollution efficiently. Therefore, one can say that it is the role of property right to bring in efficiency. In this context, the first attempt is to assign well-defined property rights. It could be either to the polluter or to the victim. Any of the parties could be given full assignment of property right. The choices are whether there exists right to clean air or if one can pollute. In the scenario when there exists a right to clean air and if the pollution occurs, then whether there should be a compensation to the pollution damage or not. That is where we bring in the role of property right and how it should be traded. Whether the polluters have certain right to pollute or not. This is again a choice given by the property right. Generally, we consider polluter pays principle, and this polluter pays principle is considered as public policy which is related to pollution control in several parts of the world. Most countries have implemented some subsidies to encourage pollution control. We consider entities such as polluter and a victim. In order to understand the role of property right assignment and to understand Coase theorem, let us consider one example. There is a polluter and there is a victim. Generally, conventionally we see the polluter is considered as a source of the problem, and the blame must be falling on the polluter. However, departing from the notion of right and wrong, if we closely see the victim could also be blamed for being located near the polluter. Without the victim having, there would have been no issue of pollution at all. So it is the victim, because of the presence of victim, we consider the issue that is pollution, and therefore there is a damage. Further, on the moral grounds, the responsibility of pollution cleaning lies with the polluter. Morally also we consider that polluter is the one who's to be blamed and who has to make certain adjustments and basically provide no pollution. Our attempt in this lecture is to demonstrate whether economic efficiency argument holds to reach the same conclusion under the various scenarios of assignment of property rights. The question of who should own the right, whether a polluter or a victim should own the right, this question was raised in 1960 by Ronald Coase in his very important paper which contributed to his winning of Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics. Coase in 1960 asks whether it is logical to assign right to the victim or to the polluter. So, keeping a very rational opinion, you can give assignment of property right either to victim or to the polluter, and not creating a bias against the polluter where the whole of the world is going for polluter pay principle. One of the conclusions of Coase is that under certain conditions, it makes no difference to the efficiency whether the polluter has been assigned the right to pollute or the victim is assigned the right to clean air. Since the right to pollute is a property right to pollute is a property right that has a value, and if the trade is allowed in those rights, then the efficiency should prevail no matter how they are initially distributed. If the right is worth more to the victim, we can take various scenarios where we consider right is worth more to the victim than to the polluter, the victim will end up with the right no matter how it is initially distributed. So, finally, whichever scenario you operate, when you reach the final outcome, we see that it does not matter how the initial distribution of property right was assigned. The initial distribution of rights matter from an equity point of view. Now, the statement of Coase theorem exists as follows. When the property rights are clearly defined and the transaction costs are low or zero, then the private parties can bargain to resolve externality such as pollution and reach an efficient outcome regardless of who the initial holds of the right exist or who initially holds the rights. That is a statement by Coase. Now, there are two separate aspects of Coase theorem. The first part is that there are no impediments to buying and selling of pollution rights. Pollution rights can be bought and sold within the market system, and there are no transaction cost. In such a case, initial distribution of rights does not matter. The second part of the Coase theorem says that it involves impediments to the trading property rights. In such a case, where there are impediments to trading of property rights, the initial distribution of rights does matter. So these are their two separate parts of Coase theorem. Coase theorem is not devoid of assumptions. There are several assumptions behind it. Once the statement of Coase theorem persists, it is coming out with underlying assumptions. First assumption is we assume a world in which there are some producers and consumers which are subject to externalities by other producers or consumers. Second assumption is everyone has a perfect information. Consumers and producers are price takers. There are cost effective court system for enforcing agreements. Further, the assumption says producers maximize profits and consumers maximize utility. There are no income or wealth effects. There are no transaction costs. In such cases, the initial assignment of property rights regarding the externalities does not matter for efficiency. It is only when these above laid down conditions or assumptions are valid, then only one can say that the initial assignment of property right regarding the externalities does not matter for efficiency. However, if any of these conditions does not hold, the initial assignment of property rights will matter and they will affect efficiency. Now, we take an example of two entities. One is a car factory and the other one is a refinery. Suppose there is a car manufacturing factory where there is a paint shop within that car manufacturer factory. Now, for the paint shop, it is important to be perfect in its paint and it needs a clean air. Car factory becomes a victim as it needs the clean air for its perfect paint on its car, while there is a refinery which is a polluter next to it, located next to it. There are only two players involved, which implies that there would be no relevant pollution problem. If the refinery were not there or the car factory were not there. So, the problem of pollution exists because these two players are together placed. If there was no refinery, then there would have been no pollution and no problem. But if there was no car factory, then there was no victim and therefore there is no issue. So, both of them together create this problem. Now, we consider for simplicity certain assumptions that the total profit of refinery and the car factory are expressed as pi r A and pi c A. Pi r A is a refinery profit and A is considered as abatement. The total profit are the functions of abatement. So, the profits are a function of abatement. Abatement basically means reducing pollution. Pollution reduction is considered as abatement. The cost of pollution are borne by the refinery. Now, the marginal cost of abatement. Once we talk about efficiency, we have to bring in the concept of marginal equilibrium, and at margin, the marginal cost of abatement and marginal benefit to the car factory are presented in the graph which we are going to discuss soon. The abatement can go from no abatement placed at 0 point to on the horizontal line, and it moves from 0 to 1. So, when the abatement is 0, it means there is full pollution or full emission. And when the abatement A value is 1, it would mean that there is there is full abatement and there is no pollution. Total profit for each of the two firms, not considering any monetary transfer between them, are given by pi r A plus pi c A. R represents refinery and C represents car factory. Now let us examine the efficiency level of pollution under the two scenarios. When the car factory has a right to clean air and when the refinery has the right to pollute. As you can see the graph on the screen, then you can see the marginal cost curve and marginal benefit curves are located. Marginal cost curve is a rising function in A and marginal benefit is a downward sloping function. We measure benefits as opposite of damage. Damage is the loss that a victim bears because of pollution, and if you reduce the damage, it is considered as benefit to the victim. So, on one side, the victim is located through its benefit curve, which is the downward sloping marginal benefit, and the cost is borne by the polluter, and the polluter is reflected by its marginal cost curve. For efficiency point of view, in margin or at margin, the marginal benefit is equated to marginal cost, or in other words, marginal cost of abatement is equated to marginal benefit, which is inverse of marginal damage, and that equilibrium occurs at A star. On the horizontal axis, we are plotting abatement. So, for equilibrium, when MB is equal to MCA, and that occurs at A star. If we are located at A equal to 0, it means there is no abatement but full pollution. If we are located at A equal to 1, it means full abatement and no pollution. But if we are located at A star, it would mean both car factory and refinery are operating. So, there is some level of abatement, not complete, and there is some level of emission at A star. The efficient level of abatement is obtained by the point where the marginal cost of abatement is equated to marginal benefit at point A star. As we move from left to right, abatement increases. It increases the optimal or efficient level till it reaches its optimality level, which is A star. And then it increases to reach its extreme point also, which is A equal to 1. So, let us consider here various scenarios. We will talk about efficiency conditions or efficiency situation. Then we will talk about victim has a right. Then in the end, third case, we will talk about polluter has a right. Under all above these scenarios, three scenarios, we will consider three basic outcomes or points of operation. Under the three basic outcomes, we will consider first point of operation when both the parties or entities operate. Second outcome would be when car factory shuts down, and third consideration will be when refinery shuts down. One of them operates. Now let us start with the efficiency condition. Efficiency scenario tells us, requires that the marginal cost of pollution control by the refinery must be equated to the marginal damage of pollution by the car factory to the car factory. So for efficiency, as we have discussed earlier, MCA must be equated to MB at point A star. The total profit generated at point A star will be the sum of the profit coming to the refinery and the car factory both. Under efficiency, we again consider three outcomes. So there are three possibilities keeping in mind the efficiency point of views. In the graph, we saw there are three operating points: A equal to A star, A equal to 0, A equal to 1. Now, we'll take the first outcome, and the first outcome we'll discuss when both car factory and refinery they operate. It is that point when the marginal efficiency condition is met. MCA is equal to MB. Under this condition, the total profit generated by this scenario is pi r A star plus pi C A star. However, if we take the second outcome is placed on the extreme left hand side when the car factory shuts down. Now, when the car factory shuts down, there is no incentive or no liability on the refinery to reduce pollution. Therefore, the value of abatement A is 0. The extreme left corner where A value is 0. So, car factory shuts down, and then the total pollution or the total profits generated would be pi r 0. The third type of outcome that is generated is when refinery shuts down, the extreme right hand side corner. The total profit generated would be pi C. When the refinery shuts down, the profits to the refinery are 0. So, the total profit generated would be pi C1. A is 1 basically would mean that there is no pollution, and the reason why there is no pollution is because refinery is already not operating. So, the car factory enjoys full clean air, and that therefore the profits earned by car factory is pi C1. You can see it on the diagram that left extreme, the three scenarios we have discussed under the efficiency case is, first scenario or the first outcome is A star. When both the car factory and refinery are operating, the best optimal or the marginal optimal scenario or the point of operation is A star. It is considered as marginal outcome, while it is the point of A star where the total profits generated are profits of refinery plus profits of car factory. The second outcome, which is when only one operates, not both of them are operating. So, second outcome we consider when the car factory is when the car factory shuts down. When the car factory shuts down, refinery is operating and not abating anything. So, A is 0, the left hand side. So, one can say that at A equal to 0, it's non-marginal outcome, but only one is operating, which is refinery, and the profit generated are written there. The third outcome, which is extreme right hand side, when A is equal to 1, A equal to 1 when the refinery has shut down, so there is full abatement and no pollution, and the car factory is operating. Under the efficiency scenario, there are three outcomes. We have already discussed that the marginal efficient outcome, the first outcome is a marginal efficient outcome, creating the profits of both the refinery and the car factory, and the remaining two outcomes are non-marginal outcome, where the car factory shuts down or the refinery shuts down. The second outcome, the car factory shuts down. In such a case, there is no victim, because when the car factory is already shut, so the abatement is zero and the refinery need not invest anything in the pollution. Therefore, one can see the profits generated at that point when A equal to 0 is pi r 0, which is the point where there is no abatement, implying the value of A is 0. The refinery need not invest anything in the pollution control technologies, and therefore the victim is not operating, therefore it has already shut down. So, case of car factory shutdown. The third case of refinery shutdown, here we see that it is again a non-marginal outcome. It may, if the refinery is very marginally profitable, operating without any pollution control, it may well socially be more desirable to shut down. Refinery may think or may decide to shut down if it is not marginally profitable in operation, and therefore decides to shut down, which means that rather than investing in significant pollution control activity, it decides to shut its activity. In such a case, profit generated will be pi C1 and abatement will be full. The value of A will be equal to 1, since the refinery that is the cause of the pollution is no longer operating, so the full profit goes to the car factory. So, we will come back to the discussion of all the scenarios after a short break. Thank you so much.